I've showed you the different cloud models, but I didn't really explain how or why you would need a public, private, or hybrid type of situation. And that's important information for you to know for the AZ-900 exam. So let's take a look. Why would you need a public cloud resource? Well, you might have some fluctuating and unpredictable workloads. In a physical model in a private cloud, you might have some problems with upgrades. If you suddenly need more RAM, you might need to order it and wait several days for it to show up, or you might need to drive to a store and purchase it if there's a store like that in your area. Now, that is going to require you to pay out of pocket to purchase it, and then you're going to have to install it or pay someone to install it. So that's going to cause a problem if you have fluctuating or unpredictable workloads. Say this week you have a much higher workload on your servers because more users are in it. Next week you have less. Does that mean that you just wasted money on RAM? It could be. So having the ability to go up or down in resources is a great example of using the public cloud. Developing and testing. You can provide your organization with a way to have dynamic resource allocation and services to quickly set up servers and storage and other things as needed. So let's say you wanted to test this new software and you don't have any additional compute capabilities with your existing physical servers. So what do? Well, you can spin up a virtual machine and go ahead and install that software, test it out, and then when you're done, shut it down, and you're done paying for it at that point. Another good thing to do is storage and backup. Now, what I've always done with the storage and backup for my clients is you have to install the backup software and the backup storage on premises or in their cage, say at a data center, and go ahead and back up the data there. But that's not the only place I like to have it backed up. I also like to have a second copy in the cloud. So that way, if something happens physically to my backup device, I have a backup in the cloud. Now, I don't necessarily want to just back up to the cloud, because if I need to do a restore of a lot of data, it can take a long time and it can cost a lot more money. So I want to have both so I can decide to which way to restore my data, whichever way makes the most sense at that time. Now let's take a look at the private cloud. Well, you may need to have the private cloud for security and compliance reasons. There are some organizations that just require you to have 100% control of your servers and your data. I can give an example of, say, financial and maybe even health types of records. In some cases, you may not be in compliance by using a cloud resource. You also might have what's called sensitive data. So you need to store and process highly sensitive data where external sharing is restricted. And there's various different what's called vertical markets that have those types of requirements. Control and performance for companies that require significant control over their IT workloads. Now, it may not be for compliance reasons. It may be for performance reasons. So, for instance, if you were to open up a file that's several gigabytes in size, say a graphics file for some sort of types of graphics project you're working on, it may take too long to download that from Azure in order to manipulate that file, make changes, upload it again, and then download it again a few minutes later. If it takes too long, that's a performance issue, and you may decide that having it in your own private cloud or on premises is really going to be the way to go. What about a hybrid type of a situation? Why would you need to have both? Well, workload optimization. This is going to allow organizations to place specific workloads in the most appropriate environment. For instance, storage with graphics, once again, that might make sense on premises or in your own private data center. Email may not make sense to have on premises. It might be better to have that in the cloud. It might be easier for users who are remote to be able to access their email than it would be to go to your own private data center or on premises where you may not have as good of internet connection, or you may not have someone who specializes in email troubleshooting. So Exchange Online, as I had mentioned, email is a great way to go. I used to install Exchange servers on many different organizations private or on-premises servers. The problem is it's kind of buggy and it requires a lot of cost to the customer to keep it going. So for just $8 or $9 a month, it was just much more feasible to go ahead and move that into the Azure cloud, to go ahead and let Microsoft go ahead and manage that instead of dealing with the constant bugs and outages that you would get with Exchange on premises. So that's a great example right there of hybrid. Also, I like to synchronize my users that are on premises into the Azure cloud. The reason for that would be for single sign-on. Let's say you go ahead and log into your computer, your users log into their computers on premises. They're going to authenticate to the local Active Directory, but now they want to open up Teams or Outlook or some other application that's at Microsoft or has an agreement with Microsoft for single sign-on. What happens is your username and your password, your authentication scheme, gets copied up to Azure. So when you go ahead and open up a Teams meeting, for instance, you don't get prompted again for your username and password. You've already been authenticated. That authentication has gone from on-premises up into the cloud and over to Teams to be able to go ahead and run it. It saves the users a lot of time, especially when you have multi-factor authentication that you would have to type in multiple times, or you'd have to open an app multiple times on your phone, and that kind of frustration really builds up with employees. You do it once when you first log in, and that's it. It's called single sign-on. It's a part of the AZ-900 exam. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with these types of examples, and you may be presented with an example that needs to be matched up with a cloud model in your AZ-900.